Hello everybody, this is Jason F. Smith, creator of the Shades of Intimacy and Modern Day Warrior Intensive. I'm here with my wife,
Jennie Stanchfield,
creator of the
Elemental Feminine,
which can be found where?
JennieStanchfield.com.
And the rest of the information can be found at jasonfsmith.com. So welcome to the daily download edition of our podcast, where the topic of our podcast is robins in, well, it's not February, is it? It's robins in March. Okay. So sit back, relax, and welcome to the daily download. Okay, Jenny has a story for us today. It's a short one, but it's interesting nonetheless.
So, in my mind, it's still the middle of winter, even though this has been probably the most mild winter I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I drove down to work, which is down in Salt Lake, got out of my car, and started hearing chirping that immediately in my body reminded me of spring and summer. It's just a certain tone and a certain cadence of chirping. And I look around and up, of course, and there's a robin. First robin I've seen of the season, sitting in a tree. And I thought, what the hell are you doing here? It's too early. And then I realized, well, it is March, but it just seems too early.
Yeah. And what brought up this story was that we just passed a pond by our home, and it was congregated by a gaggle or fleece or whatever you want to call it of geese. A fleece of geese. I'm pretty sure that's not correct.
No, that's not correct.
What type of geese were they? Do you know?
Canada geese.
They're Canada geese. So, am I to understand that they migrate from the north down here for the winter?
No.
No?
I don't know where they go.
But they're here. They
Yeah.
seem to be here when they shouldn't, is my thinking.
Yeah, some of them stick around, but a lot of them leave. I don't know what they do, but they do migrate.
Yeah, so this has been a weird winter, right? Because the pond is not covered with ice.
No.
Like normal years at this time, there would be a foot of snow around the pond, and there would be, well, it would be frozen over. So there would be no geese.
Right. Yeah, no geese.
Okay. So what we're having here is an abnormally warm winter. An abnormally warm winter, which turned cold about a week ago, out of the blue. Like it's been just super warm, and then it turned cold, and you had the actual nerve to bitch about it.
Oh yeah, I did. I sure did. It's just rude to go from about a 50-degree winter in Utah, and then on February 20th, by the way, I remember the day, plummet into the 20s and stay there.
For a whole, what, week?
No, it's been there for a whole month now. No, wait, for the 20th.
The 20th.
No,
It's March
couple
3rd.
weeks.
2 weeks.
So that's just rude.
So what we're experiencing here, besides, the rudeness and the reaction of my wife to this, to winter actually doing what winter is supposed to do.
Which is fine as long as winter commits to doing it at the beginning of winter.
Yes, this is the time when you get one of these warm days and you go, oh my God, I can feel spring coming. But we've had spring the whole time.
Yeah, it's been spring all winter.
Yeah. Okay, so the weather has been funky.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that important?
Well, I think when you put yourself into an environment that feels funky to you. Now, I mean, obviously this just naturally occurred, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's completely thrown off our clocks.
Mm-hmm.
It really has. And I think it says something about when you actually intentionally place yourself in an environment that is funky or off. It will eventually impact your organic rhythm, your clocks, the way that you function, all the way down to how your body is functioning, how you perceive things. I mean, my perception was that Robin should not be there. it's March. Actually, they start to come back now. But because we've been in this environment where my body has not gone through its normal, or, you know, been able to settle into its normal rhythm, everything feels off.
Yeah, everything feels off. So, speak to this concept that, like, if winter is going to do winter things, you want it to do it consistently. So even though it's cold, I mean, you want it to be consistently cold if it's going to be cold. What does that speaks to your rhythms.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, even though my preference may not be winter, you know, there's something very important about having a rhythm to your life.
Yeah, I mean, there are days when, say, we just had an interesting, let's pile on to the weirdness of the weather. So yesterday, March 2nd, and actually it went all the way back to March 1st on Friday, right? It was today, Saturday. Okay, so it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. The storm warnings were issued in Utah. Up to a foot and a half of snow was coming our way. Storm warning, stay off the roads, high winds, storm warning, storm warning. Not only was there no storm, it was warm and sunny and the stars were out at night. Like, it was the worst miss of a weather forecast I've ever seen.
It's coming.
I guess it's been stalled is the word now. Like a whole 24 hours later, and there's a few clouds starting to gather. Like, they just totally blew it. But that's the kind of thing too that's happening. Like there are days when we will cocoon together, right, in the house with the pets, with the kids, in you know, like a heavy snow, and there's something comforting about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me that's another rhythmic thing. I mean, as seasons change, we start to eat differently. We start to behave differently. We start to gather differently or ungather differently. It's, you know, rhythm to your life is incredibly important.
Yeah, and so even though there is not a foot of snow, and which would be good because now it's warmer and it's nicer and there's less work shoveling the driveway, we're still kind of missing those days when we were locked in the house. Yeah. So how does this relate to relationship?
Every relationship has a rhythm, and I would say that if the rhythm of your relationship is for some reason out of sync or it feels funky, to just continue to ignore it, you know, that starts to have an impact on how, you know, again, how you perceive your world, yourself, how you start to feel. It throws you out of rhythm. It's important to notice that, and it's important not to accept the fact that it's okay to stay in an asynchronous state for too long. I mean, sometimes it happens. You know, sometimes things get thrown into our lives and we have to kind of churn through them and get back to our rhythm. But there are times, you know, like right now, we can't do anything about this weather. You know, so we have to kind of churn through this and just notice what it's doing to us. But there are times where we actually put ourselves into situations in relationship that you don't have to be in.
Yeah, and when you're talking about these rhythms, we face challenges, I believe, in our society, this current cultural time, of people moving, switching jobs. I mean, the safety aspect of a rhythm, which we understand can lead to boredom and stagnation at times, can become a form of sedation, but is also a form of care and safety, as we've taught, is very hard to maintain in today's day and age. I mean, not only with cultural issues, but right now we're just experiencing an odd winter, which is even more primal than necessarily moving and getting a new job and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's the earth itself its rhythm is slightly off.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I know people up in Alaska, in those cities where the sun never rises for some of the winter. Like, human bodies are not meant to do that. They get depressed.
Yeah. Well, and one last thing to mention too is, you know, also the recognition that as you look at other couples or other partnerships, you know, every partnership has different rhythms. You know, and
Yeah.
I think sometimes we look at other partnerships and we're maybe somewhat alarmed at their rhythm, you know, but that's actually the rhythm at which they work best. So it's just kind of fascinating if you go out today and start looking at not only your rhythm, but noticing other people's rhythms.
Yeah.
And just how people operate it in totally different ways.
So we're going to leave you with a call to action. We want you to consider your rhythms. Consider your rhythms internally and externally, and your relationship to the weather specifically. Right? Because have you ever seen this? This is something to be concerned with. Have you ever seen the plants in the spring? It happens all the time in Utah. They'll bloom, and then we'll get a frost.
Snow, yeah.
Yeah, and then
frost.
boom, it just wipes out the harvest. And like the peach harvest can be wiped out, and the orange harvest in Florida. So there's a rhythm, and you don't want to jump the gun. And you know, it's not time to go out on the porch and put sunscreen on. It's still 50 degrees.
Right.
But in your relationship, take a look at your internal rhythms, your external rhythms, and how you work with your environment, and then see how that matches with your closest family, your partner, your mate, if you have one, your family, your friends, and you'll see people start to synchronize.
For better or worse.
For better or worse, yeah. And you can get into like one robin comes, maybe they all come, and then they freeze to death.
That's really sad.
Oh,
It's a sad way to end.
That's a sad way to end this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, it's not gonna freeze.
I'm pretty sure they're hardy little buggers.
They're hardy little buggers. Okay, this is Jason F. Smith
And Jennie Stanchfield.
signing off.